growing up, what was modeled for me was that we looked at any kind of behavior that could hurt us as something that we needed to manage or control. And I think a lot of people do this because it's kind of a defense mechanism. And so any kind of behavior that might possibly hurt me, what I did was I controlled the whole situation around it. And to be fair, it was very painful. But I think a lot of times, instead of that triggering like such a harsh response, the less traumatized response would have been like, please don't do that. You set your boundaries, and then if the boundary is crossed, you make a decision after that. It's like you cannot control the outcome of what somebody else chooses to do. And by doing so, you have to realize what happens. And while it's not my fault that the behavior just turned to something that was secretive instead of changing, my fault was that I never made it to where we could work through it at the beginning. I scared people at the beginning. I put the fear of God into people at the beginning of misbehavior, basically, instead of looking at it logically. And this was when I was much younger. I don't do that anymore. It takes a long time for me to get to the point where I'll put the fear of God in you, but I will if I have to. But again, it takes a really long time for that to happen. Most of the time I will approach it with logic and understanding if I can. But here is the difference, and I just reposted this. It's like the abusive behavior would continue that and never change that, and always consistently do something that would hurt someone else without any concern for their feelings. That's the abusive behavior. The human behavior is to make those mistakes and to see what happens to the person after you made that mistake, and to work on getting better at making that mistake less and less until it's extinguished, depending on the mistake. Now, there are some things that hurt worse and that you should leave after. If you cannot tolerate it, don't stay for it so that you can, take on the abuse and just continue in it. But the thing that I never learned was that you don't just consistently forgive and move on and continue to be loyal after consistently forgiving and after realizing that, like, regardless of what you did to put yourself in that position, at some point it should be obvious that the behavior is painful. The abusive behavior is the repetitive cycles. It's the cycles that you get into with people, and it never changes. That's abusive. And if you do it to each other, then it's something you have to get out of. Or if there's one person who perpetuates that, there's something you have to get out of. If there's no change in that, that needs to be something that you look at. Because either you're not growing with each other, one person doesn't care to grow with the other, or there's some sort of toxic bond there that needs to be explored and looked at. If either party is not willing to do the inner work to stop hurting you, then it's not your job to stay loyal, to hold on, to continue to take that behavior, because it's not good for either of you. You're teaching them that it's okay. You're training them that they can get away with murder and they can do anything that they want to you. And you're also putting yourself at a position where you are not seeing your value or your worth. And so when you're in that kind of a toxic situation, it can drain you of all kinds of things, and all kinds of issues can pop up. And so it's very important to realize the difference between mistakes and abuse, because there's definitely a difference. And if you don't understand the difference, abuse is something that is knowingly repeated without any improvement or without any regard for you. Human behavior is the mistake that gets made and it's communicated about. And then the person is obviously making an effort not to do that again. Because we all come into relationships with trauma. with baggage. And it's about learning how to cope with those things. And if you look at relationships that way, as though it's like a learning experience, instead of something that's like supposed to be this perfect, then it happens to be a lot easier to get through and to have that unconditional love. And also not investing so much of your worth in what the other person is doing, understanding that it comes from outside of you, not inside of you. You are not causing it. Because they're making the choice. But hopefully if they love you, they'll make the choice to work on those things on the inside and change those behaviors that hurt you. Because I think that's kind of the value of being a human on the planet, with human behaviors and not perfect behaviors. But anyway, y'all be good. We'll talk to you later. Bye.